get this show on the road. So, hello everyone. My name is Zakia Ringgold of Natural Soap by Zakia and livesoapschool.com. And typically, if we were on a live video, I would probably be showing you a bar of soap. But because this is a podcast and you can't necessarily see me, you just have to imagine the most illustrious bar of soap ever. But this is going to be the start of our Soap Talk Nation. We already have Soap Nation. Now we need an opportunity to actually talk about it. And so what you're hearing is our very first attempt at me trying to get these thoughts out in a very cohesive and coherent manner. And a lot of you may not know me. Many of you do know me, but you don't really understand how this thing has come about. So this is my story, and I am sticking to it. So in about 2015, around July of 2015, there was an app that was out, and it was called Periscope. Periscope is tightly integrated with Twitter. When it first came out, it was its own application. Twitter did not own it, but it was integrated with Twitter, so you actually had the ability without any type of restrictions to click a button and your content would be seen by either people with the Periscope app or people who were on Twitter that were searching for whatever it is that you were putting out there. And so when I first got on the platform, very similar to any other platform that I get on, I watched, and it was very, very enamoring to watch. And I'm not sure if enamoring is the right word, but that's what we're going to use right now. It was very interesting to watch because there were people from all over the world, cultures that I had not seen, people that I had not seen, expertise that I didn't even know was a thing at the time. And so as I watched it, my own curiosity started to fuel my interest in what it is that I was seeing. And so as I was doing that, I said, well, what if I got a chance to show people what it was like to live a day in the life of? That was pretty much how it got started, because I felt like there were so many other moms out there where you're just going and going and going, and it's like a never nonstop kind of thing. And you just feel like people don't know what they don't know. And I said, if they only knew what it was like to get up at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and not really actually lay down again until 11 or 12 o'clock at night, what would that be like for people to see that? And would it change some of the perceptions? And then also at the time, whenever I would turn on the news, whenever I would turn on the television, whenever I would scroll through even social media, which is supposed to be the people's media, it was such a negative light on everything. And it was just not my reality in terms of different cultures, in terms of Black people, in terms of white people. That was just not the way that I saw reality. So I figured I could do walk with me's. Number one, walk with me's were, and sometimes you guys saw that, I think that was the first live stream that I did on Facebook. And I would do those walk with me's, and people would just show up and they would ask about what was happening around me. And my goal for the walk with me's was more so to say, you might have saw that on the news, but this is actual reality for people who actually live here. Like Philadelphia at the time was being known as Killadelphia. And maybe there were a lot of murders that were happening. And not maybe, there were definitely murders that were happening. But for the 1% of negativity that is shown by the media, there is so much more good that is missed by the media. So a part of me doing Walk With Me's was to try and change that perception. And at the same time, I had just saw or started listening to Dick Gregory. And what he had said in one of his talks was that media is the most powerful tool on this planet. And I didn't get it at the time, and I now completely understand it. And while I was doing that, I was picking up this hobby of soap making. And that is how soap making actually makes its way into this story. And when you're broadcasting live, it's kind of difficult to figure out what it is that you actually want to show, because sometimes there are some things where it's like, man, if people would actually see this part. And then at the back of your mind, you're like, well, are you trying to live in truth? Hey, Miss Clark, we're actually recording a podcast, so you'll be on the podcast because I said your name. And just for the people that are on this podcast, if you are listening, I had to find a way to be comfortable with this. And a way that I'm comfortable is in front of the camera. So by me being in front of a live audience, it's easier for me to actually have that audience there while I'm doing this talk, but whatever. So going back to the soap making part, what ended up happening was I would just demonstrate my hobby of making natural soap. At that time, it was nothing more than a hobby. And when I tell you, I went from having 2 to 12 people watching to almost 100 people on a broadcast, it was absolutely mind-boggling. I was like, this is just me doing something that I like to do. And what ended up happening was my content started to shift at the same time that I started to get very interested in building websites, understanding how social media worked, understanding this whole idea of funnels and all of that, because it was a business model that I had never, ever, ever seen before. And that was the thing. I had always saw it, but if you don't have your eyes open, there is a chance that you are going to miss what's right in front of you. Because a part of what I do is working on developing training programs. That's a part of through and through for at least the last 12 years. That is what I've done. And what I thought was regular business was actually internet marketing in disguise. What they do is they take exactly what entrepreneurs do in the public sector or people who aren't a part of a company, and they apply that to corporations. So what I mean by that is you go to conferences. I can't tell you how many conferences I have been to in the corporate space. And what do? You give them your email address. And when you look at what is happening with internet marketing, 9 times out of 10, depending on the website that you go to, they're going to ask you for your email address. And then they're going to ask you for testimonials on what it is that you did. And what do they do with those testimonials? They sell somebody else with what you have just told them about how awesome or how fantastic or how incredible that service was. And so it started to click for me that even though I kept saying, I don't understand this business model, we're all living in that business model in one way, shape, or form. And in order for us to really, you have to, when people say you have to be aware, there is so much power in being aware of what is happening around you. That includes people, that includes places, that includes just seeming coincidences that start to show up. Because when you are aware of those things, you don't miss them. And depending on where you are in your life at that time, it can mean one of a million things. There's a reason why 2 people can look at the exact same movie or the exact same book and come out with 2 completely different outcomes. Because depending on where you are, that is going to shape the lens that you're looking at whatever it is that you see. So for 10 or 12 or let's see, I don't want to give away my age. I'm less than 40, older than 30. How about that? But for at least 15 years, I was in the mode of I have to get this done. I have to be the best that I can be for whoever it is that I am working for, or whatever kind of work that I am doing. And so everything that came to me was in that particular lens or that particular vein of how can this apply to the company? How is that going to then bolster or make something better for that particular company? So going in that vein, I could see why seeing those emails that come through and say, hey, check out this free webinar on the latest and greatest training technology. Oh, I got to check that out. And then you have the community of people around them that says, oh, by the way, when I went to XYZ, I then got this particular promotion because it was so successful. So that's giving you your social capital. So I started to see the very clear things that seemed like it was so alien at the time become very, very transparent of it wasn't alien, it just didn't apply to what it was that you were attempting to do. So basically, as I was seeing this, and it kind of just unfolded, and I'm watching it from like an outside space. It wasn't actually me seeing it. It was me seeing it from looking outside of myself. And I know that sounds strange, but it's like for the very first time, I saw that all of this was right there in front of you for forever, pretty much. And so what ended up happening was I started really, really studying with a very different perspective. And that perspective was, how do you create something from scratch with no following, like zero, like nobody knew who Zakia was at that time. And I am not being certain, like nobody knew exactly who I was. Look at the new 31 looking 21 soap lady. Hey, Lorraine. Hey, Tina. So I'm going to have to actually edit this now because I'm talking to you guys. We're live doing a podcast recording for just trying to figure out where this thing is going to go. And I'll listen back to it and see how I like it or how I don't. But you guys are watching it live. So even if I don't like it, you can at least see that you saw a part of it. And what we're doing is we're attempting to figure out where this podcasting journey is going to go. And hopefully somebody gets a little something out of it by watching me do it live and seeing that, hey, it's not that hard. It's not that hard at all. Pretty much nothing in life is that hard. We make it hard. And that's another lesson that I learned. So on to the Natural Soap by Zakia. That was born from constantly live streaming late at night when the kids were asleep, sometimes not sleep. And people started asking the same question over and over and over again. How can we buy it? Where do we get it? How can we buy it? Where do we get it? And mind you, at this same time, I'm studying internet marketing, which is just marketing with the term internet in front of it, because you're using the internet in order to get your content out. And so it was just a very natural progression. And I have curiosity. I typically start every project on, can I do it? Will I be successful? Which can be problematic because a very large part of me always says no. But then there's a little person in me that says, you better try it. And so it's kind of dangerous to always start projects that way because I'm already behind the 8 ball when I'm asking myself that question of, can I be successful in something? Because I'm already planting the seed of, no, you can't be successful. And so with the internet marketing piece that was going on and the growing attention that I was getting, I always say yes. No, I have sorry guys, again, I'm going to have to edit this podcast. I still have here guys, let me show you. This is something Mish reminds me of all the time. And it says, if they can do it, so can I. All right, I digress. But that's what's currently on my cell phone. And so I taught myself how to build websites. I went and I purposely started looking for any videos, any blogs, any groups that I could join that would teach me how to build websites, because I had a problem. I had a product that I was making. I couldn't give it away to a million people if I wanted to, because guess what? It wouldn't work that way. And then also, I needed a website in order for people to be able to get it easily, simply, without me having to say, oh, well, if you email me, we can do a money order, and then in about 16 weeks you'll get your, so like that's not the way it works. And I was walking around with a smartphone being a dumb person is what was happening, because and at the same time I would look around at Nyla and her friends and even Paige, and all day long they are on the cell phone. They're on these devices. And I said, well, if I am able to understand this form of technology and I can teach Nyla, which then turned into after school programs, which then turned into Paige having her own group of people that send her stuff from her Amazon wish list. Like it just completely shifted what I was attempting to do with Natural Soap by Zakia. I was initially I was just making soap and having something to broadcast about. And at the same time, I was trying to fuel myself with positivity. And because there was so much negativity that was surrounding me at the same time. So long story short, Natural Soap by Zakia has become very, 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 very successful. And I don't want people to think when I say very, 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 very successful that I mean we now have $1 million enterprise, because that is not my interpretation of success. I don't equate dollars to success. It's a litmus test, but that's not what success for me is. And there's a lot of people who, and I can say a lot of people because they're in my inbox asking me, and I'll always say, well, why do you want to do it? And they're saying, well, I just want to make money. You can make money doing anything. Why are you choosing that particular thing that you are choosing to make money from? If it seems easy, you're probably choosing the wrong thing. And so a lot, and I always caution myself when I am having those interactions, because I never want to deter anybody from what it is that they're trying to do. Because I think there has to be more of an intent behind what you're doing that's bigger than you. And so I can't necessarily offer the help that some people want, because I don't think that what one person does can be easily replicated by somebody else and get the exact same results. And so it's hard. Growth makes you successful. You are very successful already. Yes, the personal growth that I have gone through on this has been a 360 would be wrong. So is it a 180 from who I was when I first started? It's been a 180-degree turn. I look at things with a whole new lens now that I probably wouldn't have done before. I see things from a positive light much more quickly than I would a negative light. I've been out of work now for 3 months, and any other time I would have been in shambles when that happened. But it really, truly, truly gave me a chance to sit back and observe. And again, that whole concept of remaining aware, remaining grateful, and all of that really started to shine through as I sat on a couch for a long time. So I'm digressing, and I'm not really sure where this is going, but I guess I want to start with where I came from. And where I came from was a basement. And the understanding where you come from is going to be very, very important so that number one, you don't latch on to it. And number two, you know where you're going. And in that basement, I actually have a video where I was trying to and here is I'm digressing again, but this is important because it just popped in as I said I came from the basement. It's amazing how when I was in the basement, the very first time I made soap, I was actually behind a camera. And you know why I was behind a camera? Because I wanted to be able to see if I messed up, how it messed up, and be able to repeat exactly what I did if it worked out great. And to now look 3-ish years later, to see that I'm now doing it this almost the same way. I still have the same table, the same shelves, the same, well, I've gotten several stick blenders since then. But to see how not much of that has changed, and there's never any coincidences. So me being behind the camera, it was just me recording with a Samsung at that time. And my head was cut off. And it was dark, it was dreary, but I was down there like a mad chemist at the time. So where I came from was the basement. What I think helped was I was a very, very early adopter of live streaming. What I think continues to help is my refusal to stop, refusal to give up, refusal to accept anything less. And so where this story is going to pick up the next time is how I noticed that live streaming made a huge impact on very, very different people with very, very different skill sets that are very, very complementary to one another. So I am Zakia with Soap Talk Nation. Thank you for listening. Bye, everybody.